Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the official first episode, the Action Movies Golden Era podcast. Today we got a very special friend, my guest and brother, Vincent Lyn, who's known as a Western actor who fought Jackie Chan in Operation Condor back in 1991. And we are going to talk about his illustrious career, including the Hong Kong movies and so much more, and other topics as well. So, Vincent, how are you?
I am really good, and glad to be here. Good to finally see you in person. So yeah, man, let's do it.
All right, let's start off with the first question. First and foremost, could you tell us to the audience what is your martial arts background, please?
Yes. The style that's been in our family for going back 7 centuries since the beginning of the Ming Dynasty in 1368. As you know, most people who study Kung Fu for a long time, it comes from family styles as the style that I've been practicing for, well, countless decades here. Ling Gar, so Ling is our surname on my father's side, and of course, as you know, Gar means family. There have been many other things I've practiced over the decades since I was a kid, obviously studying with my uncles, my father's brothers, growing up as a young boy in England. But of course, once Bruce Lee came on to the scene, it kind of changed my whole world, as it did, I'm sure, many, many martial artists. And I actually saw him first in Return of the Dragon. This was in Leicester Square in London. And when I saw that, I said, wait a minute, what I'm practicing doesn't look like that, how naive I was. And so I got involved, I joined the judo and karate. It was Kyokushin karate. Studied for like 4 years, and of course practicing the family's Kung Fu style. And then the parents emigrated to the US, and I joined the Southern Shaolin, 5 animals like Ling Gar and 𝗙𝗘𝗦𝗙𝗦𝗥𝗑𝗕𝗘𝗥𝗦. So I studied many different things over the years, but of course I've always, as I got, I guess, more wiser and more closer to the family's history, then it was apparent that this is something that I must try to, I use the word master, but make it a part of the rest of my life, which I have. And of course, as you know, many traditional Kung Fu styles, unfortunately, have gotten lost over time. So I didn't want that to happen to, obviously, my family system. So here we are. And of course, from that, it took me to Hong Kong many, many years later. My initial visit to Hong Kong was in 1983. Was actually when I first got married, and we were honeymooning there. We had lots of family there in Hong Kong and in southern China. But I kind of, it was actually not my idea. It was my then wife's, Doreen, idea. She says, well, why don't you, just go to Shaw Brothers. This is where they're making all these films that you love so much and watch, every weekend at the theater in Chinatown. So, yeah, I took it upon myself just to walk to the studio and present myself, show them, the portfolio I had at the time. And I met famous producer called Lock-Yi Ling, and she's produced many famous Shaw Brothers and period and non-period films. And a few months later, I received a letter from Shaw Brothers saying they were very interested in planning a new film, that I would be perfect to play the lead, and we talked about a 3-picture deal. And as they say, timing is everything. It didn't quite work out the way it was planned, and so I put it out of my head. And fast forward, I started teaching a lot, and was actually right on the cusp of opening a martial arts academy in Connecticut. And I was kind of modeling at the time, and the American Chinese photographer Zan said, "Hey, have you ever thought about going to Hong Kong to do film?" I said, "Yeah, well, I thought about that. That was 5 years ago, but I kind of put it out of my head." I said, "Well, it's a different time now. You should go and give it a try." And I said, "Well, do you know anybody? Do you have any connections?" And he put me in touch with a producer there, and I kind of just went on my own dime, took a chance, met with him, and he introduced me to 4 film companies. One was the newly founded 𝗥𝗘𝗟𝗣, or D&B, that was started by Dixon Poon, who groomed Michelle Yeoh, and then they got married.
Exactly, but also was Sammo Hong and also John Sham. Together they built the company. A lot of outstanding movies.
They did, yeah. And then there was Cinema City, Sammo's company, Bulwar or Boho Films.
Yes.
And also, of course, Golden Harvest. So I actually got to sit down and interview with the pièce de résistance, Raymond Chow. So that was quite something.
Oh wow, Raymond Chow.
4 companies. Interestingly, Raymond Chow told me, he said, "Hey, look, got a great look from your photos, martial arts looks great." He said, "If you spend some time here, give it 5 or 6 months," he said, "I'm sure something will come up." I said, "Okay." I didn't say anything beyond that, but I knew that there's no way I could afford at the time to live in one of the most expensive cities in the world, just kind of hanging out for 5, 6 months, hoping and praying. So I met with the producer of Tiger Cage, who would become the producer, Fish Fong, or Fong Lei Quan, who's my kind of Daigor, my big brother. Even today, we are like this, he's one of my true mentors in life. Actually, I just got an email from him like 2 days ago. So he was the one who was instrumental in making it happen, because Tiger Cage was in production. They had passed the point of pre-production. They had already started filming. Yeah. And he said, "Okay, I want you to meet with the director, Yuen. And at the time, to be honest, I can't say I knew much about Yuen, except of the fact of seeing Drunken Master and Snake and the Eagle Shadow, and of course knew that it was Yuen who was responsible for grooming a very young Jackie Chan's early career.
Yes, exactly.
So I saw him in this very tiny Hong Kong office, and the only thing that was in the office was a desk, and he was sitting behind in his chair. Fish was standing by the door, and I basically had about 3 feet of space to put on the spot, and he basically said, "Show me something," And I'm like, "Okay, now's the time, even if the genes split. So here I am going through a bunch of different moves in the tiny, tiny space I had.
Yeah.
And about a day later, well, actually 2 days later, I was supposed to get on a flight. My flight was to go back to New York. And Fish said, he said, look, just wait another day. Just wait one day. He says, I think you're going to get the part as of the lead villain, as opposed to the who was supposed to play the lead villain was the American female actress in it. I forget her name, but nice young woman, attractive young woman, and she was supposed to play the lead.
Okay.
So a female lead villain, and they changed it around. So I told Fish, I can't wait. I can't change the flight. I don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. I got on the plane. I flew back to the U.S. Kind of like, kind of depressed and what have you. Within 24 hours, Fish called me back and he says, you got the part. He said, so within another 24 hours, they put me on a plane and flew me back. I mean, it's really a crazy story. And, from that point on, it was, it was surreal. I spent 3 months there, of which probably filming days lasted, I would say 15 days, no more than 15. Yeah. But the thing was, I made it a point, because here was my first major feature, and so I spent as much time as I could on the set, just watching and trying to learn, the method of filmmaking and just, how they set up the scene, and especially, which was probably a major requirement, was, martial arts choreography. So yeah, it was a surreal time, but it kind of, was, from that point, I really didn't look back. Whew, yeah. And funnily enough, I just watched, I don't remember how long it is since I watched 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗪, but I watched it a couple of nights ago. A beautiful copy of it. I don't know if it's 2K or something, but I was like,
Yeah.
to see myself many, that's like 3 decades ago.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, I do look a little different.
No, but you're still the same good-looking guy. I mean, you're still
Thanks,
good.
thanks.
No, I mean, I've seen, when I was trying to do the podcast, I was looking back at some of the movies, even now, with your pictures doing the splits, you're still in perfect shape. And honestly, you're like, wow, you're truly an inspiration. It's like, wow, this is so cool. He still continues to evolve and be the better version of himself. And
Mashallah.
for Hong Kong, because I remember at the time when you were training with your family regarding the Ling Gar legacy, were you competing in tournaments, and did you want to become a fighter or mixed martial arts fighter?
Well, obviously, at that period, there was no mixed martial arts. It didn't exist yet. Yeah. So at the time, what was big was like Professional Karate Association, PKA, WKA, which is World Karate Association, which comprised using like leg kicks and so forth. So it was a thing that I felt at the time I wanted to do. So I did compete for sure. I took many seminars with Superfoot, Bill Wallace, and Don the Dragon Wilson, and of course, they are, especially Don, is a very, very dear friend, and we've traveled a lot together, as well as Cynthia, and given a lot of appearances over the time. And I always relate a funny story to Don, and I said, you don't remember, but I came down to Orlando, Florida, and I said, I think you had just won some world championship in Thailand, and you came back and you were giving a seminar, and there were about eight or nine of us, high-ranking black belts, and I think the thing was, he says, you came out, you took off your jacket, rippling muscles and everything, sweat and everything, and you said, anybody in here would like to spar around, with him, like one at a time.
Yeah.
So I remember I said, yeah, gotta do it, no matter, gotta have that experience. Because I had done the same thing with Superfoot Bill Wallace. And of course my ribs still feel it today.
Wow.
But I got in there and I remember, going back and forth, and he hit me with this. He's going to throw a roundhouse kick, and I remember putting my arm up to block it, and then I dropped my arm, and he hit me with the second one, because his leg was up. I blocked the first one, I dropped my arm, and then he just boom hit me again, and I tell you, hit me right smack in the temple, and I remember for the first time ever, actually, it felt like a cartoon. I saw these stars, like spinning around my head like this.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stand up, and I'm like, he said, "You okay, Yeoh?" I said, yeah, I'm fine. I said, but I think I'm gonna take a rest and sit down. And I said to Don, I said, "You don't remember that?" He says, "I never did that." I said, "Trust me, you did." I said, "The amount of people you kicked in the head, you just don't remember. That's the problem, So anyway, yeah.
At the time, if you had an iPhone, if it existed.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, really.
So outside of your family's legacy, you mentioned Bruce Lee. Who are your others' biggest influence in the martial arts?
Wow, I can't say. I think at the time, I can't say there was anybody else.
Anybody else? Okay.
Nah, I mean, when I went to college,
Yeah.
and of course, I would find myself down in Chinatown in Boston watching, film after film every weekend. I was down there, So there were some people that I really liked. Like Wang Zhongli was like,
Oh yeah, a legend. Oh, that is
Yeah.
a legend. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Jackie Chan, of course, so these guys, and of course, Wang Zhongli was always the villain in Jackie's early films.
Yeah. Yes.
As he was in many other films too. So yeah, I mean, there was certainly people that I liked, but I can't say they had the effect over me that,
Yeah.
an actual, on-screen star. So yeah, but Bruce Lee was always the one for me.
All right. You were mentioning Hong Kong, led you to Hong Kong and everything with Shaw
Yeah.
Brothers and Golden Harvest. When you were exchanging messages, you mentioned to me a person that unfortunately passed away. He was the first non-Hong Kong actor, but he was a Western actor who started all this. And you told me that he was the one who gave you opportunities to evolve it in the career. Is John Ladalski.
Yes.
He passed away in 2016, and you're mentioning
That's correct.
He was also a student under Danilo Santos, Bruce's best friend. And so, how did you meet him? Is he the one who referred to you at the time for Tiger Cage or any movies?
No, not Tiger Cage. No,
Tiger Cage.
After Tiger Cage, I thought I was heading back home. That was it. I did the one film.
Yeah.
And kind of got it out of my system, and I'm gonna head back home and then open the school. Well, it didn't work out that way, I guess. Was that because the film became this kind of massive hit all throughout Asia. But it broke box offices in Hong Kong. Kind of within no time at all, I had met John Ladalski because of where I was training at the New World Gym, amongst other people. And there were a lot of Hong Kong actors also who trained at this gym as well.
Oh, wow, cool.
because the New World Hotel at that time, it doesn't exist anymore, but it was right next to, which still exists, is the Regent Hotel, which is a very, very famous, 5-6-star hotel that was the Regent when I was there. Then it changed later to the Intercontinental, and now it's again the Regent. So they were kind of side by side. And so, and that's where I met John Ladalski. And he told me that, there's this film that Golden Harvest is doing. You'd be perfect for it because they're now recasting, starring Cynthia Rothrock. It's a movie that they shelved for a year. Man Hoi was originally directing, and now it's Yuen Kwai, 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗥𝗕𝗥𝗦.
Yes.
And so originally he thought he put my name forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but he also thought he was going to be in it as well. And it didn't work out that way. They wanted kind of brand new faces because John had already kind of done some things.
Yeah.
So they hired me and Jeff Falcon. And so that's how that came about, getting the call from Golden Harvest saying, you've got the part for that. So, but John was a really nice person. He was always, there were so few of us, and I say few of us, whether it was a couple of Americans or Canadians or Australians or Brits,
Mm-hmm.
There were so few of us, you can't even count them on two hands. But he was always kind of looking out for us because we looked at him and considered him the kind of the kind of tiger on the mountain. He had been in Hong Kong a long time. He knew how things worked. He pretty much knew everybody in the industry.
Wow.
So, we always kind of looked to him as kind of like a father figure in terms of, hey, John, what do you think of this person? Have you worked with him? Or what do you think of this company? So, he was a good person.
Yeah, like an advisor, like saying that, is it good for
no, very
you?
much. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I
Wow.
would say that a lot.
So, when was the last time you saw him before he passed away? Did you see him before?
Oh, my goodness. Long time ago. I couldn't tell you exactly what, year, but it was a considerable long time ago. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Regarding when you're hired as an actor or non-actor, or even with Golden Harvest, DB Production, and all, the processing of auditioning in generally. So if someone who has less experience in martial arts, if somebody doesn't have the slightest skill, like for example, Michelle Yeoh, when she started, she was really in martial arts. I mean, she knew ballet, swimming, she did a lot of sports, but do they train people, guys who are outside of martial arts or non-martial art, do they train people to prepare for them for a special movie?
No. You can't, Michelle Yeoh was a very, very obviously special case,
Yeah.
And we know the history because of Dixon Poon. So, he was definitely grooming her, and as she had a lot of ballet training, and she certainly had the look, she had the flexibility, the agility, was kind of a no-brainer. She learned martial arts and martial arts screen fighting as she went along. But for the Westerners who were in Hong Kong, you had to really have martial arts training. They weren't going to train you. It was kind of like the ones who came from Western countries, they all came with pretty much a lot of martial arts background. Yeah. Then again, that didn't mean there weren't other parts for Western actors besides doing action. They needed other roles too. Yeah. So
That's pretty much. For instance, if somebody knows Kung Fu, because that was the main goal in the martial arts in the screening movies. But if somebody only knows Aikido or Judo, do they still give a chance to those to be on the screen, or they need to know Kung Fu? This is the main goal.
No. I think, I think basically when they, in my memory of doing auditions, they would really want to see what you're capable of doing, no matter what martial art it is, The interesting thing is, I remember on Operation Condor.
Yes.
And Steve Tartaglia was a
yeah.
traditional eagle claw stylist, his background. So there was one day very early in filming, and Steve's, he was always getting himself into trouble or causing trouble. And he was doing his eagle claw and his forms, And I remember Jacky looking at him and said, "Stop doing that shit."
Wow.
He said, "We're not doing any of that on this film. There's no gung fu.
Oh, wow.
It's just like, like kickboxing, like street fighting with kicks and punches,
Getting hurt for real."
He doesn't want any stylized movement. Yeah. So it was just really funny to remember that day. And I was standing right there when, Jacky just looked over his shoulder and Steve's doing all this kind of stylized eagle claw. And he just said, "Stop that shit," So, yeah, and this is the thing. It wasn't, sometimes, and that was really important, is that they wanted to see what kind of, if you had any kind of stunt ability, the actual fact that you could take a hit. So it wasn't about how good your martial arts per se was, but, you had to also know how to take a fall, take a strike, make the star look good, because that's, of course, what's important. Yeah.
Yes. You get cast in Tiger Cage, which obviously was director Wen Wu-ping. You got to meet one of the greatest directors and producers who elevated Donnie Yen's career. So you got so many actors and Western actors as well. You got Donnie, you got Simon Yam, Carol Dudu Chang, Brian Long, you got 𝗙𝗛𝗓𝗏 Tat, you got so many, Jackie Cheung, who you fought, Irene Wan, you got Michael Wood, Stephen Berwick, Fong Hang Hon, stunt member of the Jackie Chan, and John Wayne Lu Wing, and so much more.
One thing you can't forget is Yuen Wu-ping's whole stunt crew, which are his family.
Yeah, the Yuen clan. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yuen clan.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you something about one actor who unfortunately isn't there anymore, 𝗙𝗛𝗏𝗏 Tat, who was known for playing so many with Stephen Chow's movies, the uncle. Right. What do you remember of him?
Oh yeah. Again, at that time,
yes,
I was this kind of new face, right? I came in on the film when it was halfway through the film. So I really kind of felt, how should I say? Well, humbled, but certainly I felt insecure because this was the first film I did. So I really kind of kept a kind of very, very low profile. Yeah. I actually became very good friends on that film with Simon and 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, which is Jackie Cheung. Jackie Cheung would every day, in his sports car, he would drop me off, where I was staying. And Simon, he was so smart and wise about the industry, and I would just always listen to everything he always had to say. And I remember one thing that was really profound. He said, "Vincent," he said, "no matter how long you work in Hong Kong, no matter what it is, doesn't matter if it's film, modeling, whatever you get, TV, commercials," he said, "never, ever turn anything down." He says, "no matter if you think it's a crap movie or it's going to suck, and He said, even if it's just for one day work, he said, don't, no matter what, just say you're going to do it. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, you know, why do you say that? He says, well, because it won't last.
Nice.
And he said it in a way, he says, it won't last for any of us. Meaning he was able to see the future of Hong Kong film and the kind of, that it would come to a high point, but at some point it would not last. And he was, of course, he was right. You know, he was very, very correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when an opportunity passes or it's given to you, you got to take a chance, because a leap of faith, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you started in so many classic Hong Kong, and it's still amazing till this day. Even years have passed, it's still phenomenal.
No, it is. Yeah. I look at it at the time, you know, it's funny, Nadir, at the time, many of us thought, we kind of laughed it off. We didn't. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we always say we should have taken it a little more seriously, you know, and it was surreal. It was very heady, the whole thing, you know. But looking back from a different perspective, you know, in hindsight, one can say, who would have known that 10-year period would be recognized as the golden age of Hong Kong cinema, that during that decade, from, let's say, 85, 86 to just before the changeover, 97, that most of the Hong Kong films that were done during that period are recognized as some of the most classic films ever to come out of Hong Kong cinema. Yeah. So, yeah, it's really quite an amazing thing. And so now you see, because they never can be replicated, ever.
Oh,
and so
100%. You're right. Yeah.
No matter what, you have all the technology today of, you know, AI and green screen, blue screen, and whatever you want. But we were doing that stuff for real, man. There was no, like, you know.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So to replicate it is really, it's impossible, you know. And here you have a number of younger generations like yourself and even younger that are now going back because of companies like, let's say, 88 Films and other ones, small companies in Britain that have, you know, people like Rick Myers and Frank DeZheng, who, you know, are doing all these interviews, which I have done many for the films that they have re-released on, you know, first it was Blu-ray, then it was 2K, then it was 4K, then it's remastered, you know, and they've done some incredible, like, beautiful jobs of these films. I mean, and so you have a whole new generation now that can watch these things, which is still doing more. So, yeah.
You know, it's really a shame that these movies, like Rumble in the Bronx, for instance, when it got released in the US, it was, people started getting interested in those stunts and everything Jacky does, but that all the movies with you, Moon Lee, 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗛, any Hong Kong movies regarding Tiger Cage, it's a shame it never got released worldwide here, because now with technology, everything's possible. You could check it on streaming and search, but it's a little hard because a lot of people don't even know these films. I mean, and it's a little sad because those movies were special and classic. I mean, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, even the early 2000s that I've seen so far, they are good. But that ancient technology that was so well done, it could never be replicated like you mentioned. I mean, honestly, I mean, the stunts, the whole process, it's crazy.
No, I know. No, it's true. It really is, you know.
How many days, when you were fighting Jacky Cheung, which is a famous known singer in Hong Kong with Andy Lau, Leon Lai, and Aaron Kwok?
Well, he was called the Michael Jackson of Hong Kong.
The Michael Jackson.
And a beautiful voice.
Oh, voice. Absolutely. And he's the one who sang that song at the end of Right and Wrongs with Cynthia Rothrock at the end. I didn't know it was him, but a couple of months ago I discovered it with my application called Shazam, which is an app that detects a song. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
that's Jackie Cheung. Okay, he's saying so. I recorded.
Yeah.
Fight scene. How many days and hours did you put in?
At the end in Statue Square on Hong Kong side, we were filming all those scenes. We were filming at night.
Yeah.
I could say it's a little cooler, but it was during summer, so it was brutally hot. I lost like 15 pounds over the course.
Wow.
I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like every like few days, I was the belt holding up the suit pan. It was another notch. And they had like 3 or 4 of the same jackets. So doing a number of like back and forth. Within like 10 minutes, the suit jacket was drenched, like I stood in the shower. They took it off, and then they would use an iron to dry it, and so I put another one on. And then 10 minutes later, we switched the jacket, put another one on. It was crazy how hot it was and humid. I would say that scene at the ending, well, there was a lot of things that took time, like, for example, that took just one night itself of the scene. It's not Jacky, it was a stuntman doing the flying sidekick into the windscreen of the car. There was no wires.
No wire? Oh, wow, he did it? Wow.
No, he did it. He just jumped up and boom.
Wow, okay, so that's good to know, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
no wires. But like that scene took an entire night, I think maybe 2 to set up, because they got to set up the windscreen for sugared glass, and then the timing of it. Yeah, I mean, just that one scene took all night. So, I would say maybe a week.
When the stuntman needed to do that technique, I mean, does the car go slowly so he could reach the goal?
The car is hardly moving at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like it's watching the film a couple of nights ago, it looks like it's about to be moving, but it's actually was standing still when he actually made the impact of the glass. So, but it was a good shot. Yeah.
Oh, it's a good shot because now regarding when you told me this scene, I remember in the Line of Duty 5 when Cynthia Khan was pursuing Bruce Fontaine, there was a scene where she does the flying sidekick, so there was no wires. So that's the theory I wanted to confirm. So that's good to know.
That's right. She did the same shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the next movie I'm going to talk about, obviously, it's Lady Reporter, which you met Cynthia Rothrock and you became really close friends with her. There was also 2 people who aren't with us anymore. Mang Hoi, who passed in 2023.
Yeah.
And also there's Corey Yuen, which we discovered that he passed away 2 years prior.
Yeah.
And when I contacted you the first time on social media, you wrote a beautiful tribute regarding Corey Yuen. What I love about that tribute is because you kept your profession, which is not easy when you're working with somebody. There's a boss. There's always things that happen in a person's real life, but you kept it so calm and smooth that he referred to you for your next movie, which is Outlaw Brother. I was wondering if you could talk about what was working with Corey Yuen and Mang Hoi, please.
Yeah, I specifically, well, of course, I worked with Mang Hoi too, because there was a few fight scenes that myself and Jeff Falcon did. Working with Corey Yuen was humbling, but I always felt like he just didn't like me at all. I really did. It was like, I tried to, be so like, just keep my mouth shut and do whatever was asked, but there was just sometimes I felt he looked frustrated and, sometimes I couldn't get the timing right. And so I felt like, oh man, this guy just really does not like me. So, it got to the point where, man, I can't wait till this, film is over and done with, right? But yeah, again, unbeknownst to me, that it would be a couple of years later. And we're not talking about a few months. It's like a couple of years, you know. But when I did Outlaw Brothers, that I got told by, you know, Frankie Chan that he called me into his office that he's doing this new film, definitely wants to be me to be in it. And I said, well, don't you want me to audition? He says, no, I don't want you don't need to audition. I said, really? He said, well, I spoke with Kwai. I said, and then I'm shuddering, you know, like thinking, oh God, really? He said, yeah. And he said, of all the foreigners he said he's worked with so far, he says, you're the most quiet, and you just don't complain, you keep your mouth shut, you just try your best, do whatever is asked and whatever is necessary. He said, so you're the easiest to work with. So I said, he said that? So there you go, you know. I guess the moral of the story at the time is there were some Westerners who were not, I would say, easy to work with. Mm-hmm. And maybe because they should have kept their mouth shut instead of being disrespectful to the directors, or their own ego, you know, because ego always comes into it, and that does not help. Yeah. So anyway, for me personally, it obviously put a whole new found respect on Kwai, you know, when I just didn't think he liked me, you know, but when I heard that from Frankie Chan, I was like, wow, okay, so this is positive, you know. Yeah.
Wow. So this is the first time that you met Jeff Falcon on set? Because I remember seeing on Burning Ambition the famous fight scene against him and Frankie Chan when he was wielding the weapon. I don't know how it's called. It's like the 3-baton with the chain, and he was
wielding. You mean the three-sectional staff, the Samjiquan.
I saw it a couple months ago. I was still mind-blown by how he wielded. He was such a wonderful martial artist. And collaborate with Jeff because you need to fight Cynthia, and so you appear in the introduction against Wuma in the Journal Locals, and also who passed away in 2014, unfortunately. He's a great actor, yeah.